Ever wonder why traits like darker skin or curly hair often seem more prominent in mixed-race people? Some say black genes are stronger than white genes, but that's not how genetics really work. Stick around, because what you'll learn might just change the way you think about race and biology forever. This question, while simple on the surface, touches on complex themes in biology, human evolution, and social history. The idea that certain racial traits might be dominant over others stems from a misunderstanding of how genetics works. In reality, the principles of dominance and recessiveness apply to individual traits, not entire racial groups. To properly explore this question, we need to unpack several key areas: the science of genetics, how traits like skin color are inherited, the role of evolution in human diversity, and the social misconceptions surrounding race. By breaking these down, we can dispel the myths surrounding the idea of genetic dominance tied to race and provide a more nuanced understanding of human biology. Understanding dominant and recessive genes. In genetics, the concepts of dominant and recessive refer to how specific traits are inherited from our parents. Genes come in pairs, with one allele inherited from each parent. How a trait manifests in an individual depends on how these alleles interact. The term dominant gene refers to a gene that will express its trait even if only one copy is present. Recessive genes require two copies to express their associated trait. For example, dominant traits might include things like brown eyes, dark hair, and dimples. Recessive traits might include blue eyes, blonde hair, or the absence of dimples. Dominance is simply a way to describe how certain traits show up when different versions of a gene, alleles, interact. Skin color, a polygenic trait. When it comes to skin color, one of the most visible markers of racial background, the situation becomes more complex. Skin color is not controlled by a single gene, but by multiple genes. This makes skin color a polygenic trait, one that results from the interaction of several different genes, rather than a simple dominant recessive pattern. One of the most significant contributors to skin color is the pigment melanin, which is produced by special cells called melanocytes. Melanin comes in two main forms: eumelanin, which is dark brown or black, and pheomelanin, which is red or yellow. The more eumelanin someone has, the darker their skin will be. People with light skin have a greater proportion of pheomelanin. The amount of melanin produced is regulated by several genes, including MC1R, SLC24A5, and OCA2. These genes vary in expression across different populations, leading to a wide variety of skin tones. When two people of different skin colors have children, the combination of their genes can produce offspring with a range of skin tones, often a blend of both parents. And why dark skin often appears dominant. This leads to the perception that black genes are dominant. However, this isn't because black genes are inherently dominant. It's because the genes that regulate melanin production tend to produce more eumelanin, leading to a darker complexion. So, when a child inherits genes from both parents, the genes promoting higher melanin production are often more active, leading to a skin tone that may be darker than one parent but lighter than the other. This doesn't mean black genes are universally dominant over white genes. It simply reflects how skin color traits are inherited. Hair texture, another complex trait. Hair texture is another characteristic frequently brought up in discussions of racial genetics. Generally, people of African descent are more likely to have tightly coiled or curly hair, while those of European descent are more likely to have straight or wavy hair. Like skin color, hair texture is controlled by multiple genes. One of the key genes involved in hair texture is EDR, which influences hair follicle shape. Other genes, such as TEACH, affect how hair fibers are formed and curled. In genetic terms, curly hair is often considered a dominant trait, while straight hair is considered recessive. Therefore, in families where one parent has curly hair and the other has straight hair, their children often end up with curly or wavy hair rather than completely straight hair. Again, it's important to remember that hair texture is influenced by many genes, and the final outcome can vary widely. This variability can explain why some mixed-race children have hair that more closely resembles one parent's texture, while others might have a completely different hair type. Eye color, a simpler case of dominance. Eye color follows a more straightforward genetic pattern compared to skin color and hair texture. Brown eyes are typically dominant over blue or green eyes. This is largely due to the OCA2 gene, which controls the amount of pigment in the iris. If a child inherits one allele for brown eyes and one for blue eyes, they will most likely have brown eyes, as the brown eye allele is dominant. However, eye color is also a polygenic trait, meaning multiple genes contribute to the final color. Variations in these genes can result in a wide range of eye colors, including hazel, gray, and green. Evolution and adaptation. The origin of human diversity. The genetic traits we associate with different races are the result of human evolution and adaptation to various environmental conditions over thousands of years. Dark skin, for example, evolved as a protective adaptation in populations living near the equator, where high levels of ultraviolet, UV radiation, posed a risk to human health. Darker skin, rich in melanin, offers greater protection against UV radiation and its harmful effects, such as skin cancer and folate degradation. On the other hand, lighter skin evolved in populations living further from the equator, where UV radiation is less intense. Lighter skin allows for more efficient synthesis of vitamin D in low sunlight environments. These adaptations are a reflection of how human populations evolved to survive in different parts of the world, not indicators of genetic superiority or inferiority. Hair texture, too, evolved as an adaptation to climate. In hotter, more humid climates, tightly coiled hair helps to dissipate heat, while straighter hair in cooler climates may provide better insulation. The role of genetic diversity. One of the most important concepts to understand in human genetics is that African populations exhibit the greatest genetic diversity of any group on Earth. This is because modern humans originated in Africa, and as groups migrated to other parts of the world, they took only a small portion of the total genetic diversity with them. This greater genetic diversity within African populations is one reason why traits commonly associated with black people, such as darker skin and curly hair, often appear dominant in mixed-race individuals. There are simply more genes within African populations that contribute to these traits. While it's tempting to look at genetics through the lens of race, the concept of race itself is a social construct, not a biological one. Race is a way societies have organized people based on physical traits, often for the purpose of maintaining power dynamics or justifying discrimination. From a genetic standpoint, the differences between individuals of different races are minimal. All humans share 99.9% of their DNA, with only small variations accounting for the differences we see in physical traits. This small variation doesn't correlate with the broad racial categories we use today. There is more genetic diversity within Africa alone than between any two groups of people from different continents. This makes it clear that race, as we understand it socially, has little basis in genetics. Check. The danger of racialized genetics. Historically, pseudo-scientific ideas about racial dominance have been used to justify slavery, segregation, and other forms of systemic racism. The eugenics movement of the 19th and 20th centuries, for example, promoted the idea that certain races were genetically superior to others, leading to widespread discrimination and atrocities like forced sterilizations. Understanding the true complexity of genetics can help debunk these myths. Traits like skin color, hair texture, and eye color are just one part of a person's genetic makeup and do not determine their abilities, intelligence, or worth. Recognizing this is key to fostering a more inclusive and scientifically accurate understanding of human diversity, beyond dominance and recessiveness. In conclusion, while some traits commonly associated with black populations, such as darker skin or curly hair, can be seen as dominant when mixed with traits from white populations, this does not mean that black genes are universally dominant. The concept of genetic dominance applies to specific traits, not to entire racial groups. Furthermore, race is a social construct, not a biological reality, and genetic differences between racial groups are minimal compared to the vast similarities shared by all humans. By understanding the science behind genetics and moving away from simplistic notions of racial dominance, we can appreciate the true diversity and complexity of human biology.